I was living in London, living the corporate life, worked for Lloyds Bank. I quit my corporate job and went to uni to study to be an occupational therapist. Graduated when I was 32, got the job in the corporate world, and then decided this just wasn't for me. I couldn't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. I needed something more meaningful. I trained as a personal trainer, and then decided to take a little break. And so I completely left the country and wandered off to Morocco. Yeah, I was just sick of the rat race. I'd been in London for 8 years, and I'd been going on surf and yoga holidays to Morocco and absolutely loved it. I was like, sod it. I'm just going to go and live on a beach for a little bit. I had big dreams of opening up a retreat centre out there and things, but obviously once you have children, priorities change and things change. So yeah, I ended up deciding that coming back to the UK was the right decision for the future of my son. This is not fulfilling me. This is not where I wanted to go. This was supposed to be temporary, and 2 years later I'm still sitting at my desk at the computer, and learned so much and was like, wow, why is this information not out there? I can support other women the way I'm supporting myself right now. And then that became my passion. I am a women's personal trainer and health coach, and I specifically now work with women over 40 who are going through the peri to postmenopause transition. I'm very passionate about getting women to just become stronger physically and mentally, really.
For those people out there who are thinking, oh God, I'd love to run away from my job and my career, any words of wisdom or advice?
If you don't have big dreams and goals, you'll end up working really hard for someone else who does. And life is incredibly short. Right, it's just stepping out of that comfort zone into it and just putting a little bit of fear into your life and taking it from there.
Feel the fear and do it anyway. Well, welcome to the Midlife Career Revamp Diaries. Today I'm talking to Sara Ashley, got it wrong already, Sara Ashley. She's a woman's personal trainer and health coach, and she specialises in peri to post-menopause. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How are you doing? Where are you based?
I'm good, thank you. I'm based up in Bolton in Manchester, so northwest. Yeah, it's not so sunny today actually, but I'm still remaining in the sunny vibe. So
got to keep it going until at least September, right?
Of course. I'm not ready for winter yet.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you work with?
So I am, as you said, a women's personal trainer and health coach, and I specifically now work with women over 40 who are going through the peri to postmenopause transition. I'm very passionate about getting women to just become stronger physically and mentally, really. There's a big market flood, I think, with personal trainers and health coaches on helping women to lose weight during this period. But my passion really lies with the strength and like I say, not just physically but mentally. So I'm starting up. I'm very new in this field. Just recently retrained. So I'll be starting up some local programs and then hopefully running some online programs later on, and just supporting women really to build up that strength, especially in these years, because as people have probably heard, osteoporosis risks are higher as we go over 45, and yeah, just the mental benefits that come with moving our bodies and building up physical strength, and that's where my passion lies.
Yeah, it comes as quite a shock to a lot of us, doesn't it? That sort of, you hear about the menopause and things, but when it actually starts affecting you, it's a whole different ball game, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So you mentioned there that you're new. So tell us a little bit about what you've done before. I know you've had quite a varied career life before now. You've worked with Lloyds, you've worked with weight management companies, you've done all sorts of things. Tell us about that.
So probably about 8 years ago now, I was living in London, living the corporate life, worked for Lloyds Bank as a resourcing manager, And yeah, it was the usual how everyone feels, it was highly stressful. It was great to allow me to live a great life in London because it's very expensive there, so the salary is great. You can do the things that you want to do, but it comes with that price tag of stress and your mental health suffering. So I decided that I wanted to be an occupational therapist. It's something that I'd been looking into, and I'd done some volunteer work during my degree in a specialist speech and language school. And I was in awe of the work that they did with the children as a paediatric OT. So I did just that. I quit my corporate job and went to uni to study to be an occupational therapist. Lots of
So,
people
so you went back to university as a mature student?
yeah. So I started off as a mature student. So I went to university to do an undergrad at 28, graduated when I was 32, got the job in the corporate world, and then decided this just wasn't for me. I couldn't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. I needed something more meaningful. And so yeah, I went on to do a master's in occupational therapy. And a lot of people questioned what you're doing, why you're doing that. You've got a great job, great salary, but for me, it just that wasn't enough. I needed something a bit more meaningful. And so off I trotted to uni again. And it was quite tough. It was tough to support yourself, especially living in London. But I also had a property, and the rental income was supporting me during my studies. And then towards the end of the first year, unfortunately, I had a bit of a dilemma, which is a whole other story, financial dilemma. But long story short, my tenant went a bit AWOL and stopped paying rent and disappeared. And I had to use the savings that I had to support me to take him to court, basically, and get him out. So my mental health suffered, and I put my course on hold for a year, and couldn't really afford to carry on for that second year. So during that time, then I got quite passionate about physical health within mental health due to a placement that I was on. And I thought, right, okay, what can I do now that is going to still support this role that I was learning to be? So I decided that I could still do something, and that's become a personal trainer, because I can still support people with their mental health through physical health. So that's what I did. I trained as a personal trainer, and then decided to take a little break while I was waiting to decide whether I was going to go back to uni the following year or not. And so I completely left the country and wandered off to Morocco.
Well done. I did a bit of an eat, pray, love myself.
Yeah, I was just sick of the rat race. I'd been in London for 8 years, and I'd been going on surf and yoga holidays to Morocco and absolutely loved it. It was that mix of adventure and sort of exercise with the Zen. It was amazing, and I loved it. And it was a great country and full of culture. And I was like, sod it. I'm just going to go and live on a beach for a little bit. So I did that. I rented out my room in London, temporary, for 6 months, just in case, I had to come back for any reason. And off I went, and I loved it. And I was running boot camps on the beach. And it was bliss, that you could get up to the sunrise and call that my office, as opposed to getting on a tube in London and,
Absolutely, yeah.
sweaty hot tube going into the central London. It was such a difference, but it was fantastic. So yeah, I ended up actually out there for a good 3 years, and I met my partner while I was out there, and had a baby during that period. So I obviously didn't go back.
It was a busy few years.
Very. And I had big dreams of opening up a retreat centre out there and things, but obviously once you have children, priorities change and things change. So yeah, I ended up deciding that coming back to the UK was the right decision for the future of my son. And I came back to Manchester as opposed to London, which is where I was originally from. So that was a very long journey, and a lot went on during that time. But as my husband was Moroccan, to be able to bring him over here with us, it wasn't very easy, and I needed to have a certain salary for a certain amount of time to apply for his visa. So I then couldn't continue my personal training. And during that time, sorry, I specialised in pre and postnatal as well, because that was a bit of a journey for me, not sort of knowing anything about that area, but being pregnant. So yeah, I'd, continued my education within personal training. And I definitely stuck to a lot of my occupational therapy principles, the very holistic approach within all that. But then coming back, I had to go and get a desk job again to support my husband's visa. And it was supposed to be temporary for 6 months, and I ended up doing that for 2 years. And it was with a tier 2 weight management company. So still within the health field. But I became a manager for the National Child Measurement Programme, which is a government-led programme where they weigh and measure children in reception. And then I can't remember now, I think it was year 9, something like that, or year 5 before they leave primary school. And I did that job for 2 years.
And how did you feel about that job? Did you feel that it was aligned with what you were doing, or was it purely a means to an end?
It started off as a means to an end, but I loved the company. The company, it was so far from the corporate life. They were very involved in like workplace culture, and they wanted people to enjoy where they worked. It was a fun company to work for. It was a nice company. You got lots of support. So I loved it in that respect. It was a fully remote job. So obviously the pros and cons of that. I was sitting at a desk when I'm used to being so active as well. So that kind of destroyed me a little bit. And it was more sort of admin operations type work as opposed to where I wanted to go with my career. But it was still within the health industry, and I can still say now that I learned a lot from doing that job. And yeah, 2 years later, I got to the point where I was like, this is not fulfilling me. This is not where I wanted to go. This was supposed to be temporary. And 2 years later, I'm still sitting at my desk at the computer. So I knew that I wanted to change something, and I got thrown into perimenopause when I was 38. And I've been on that journey, obviously not recognizing there was perimenopause up until about 1.5 years ago. I'm 43 now. And because of that, I then went on, did further CPD in peri to postmenopause transition within my personal training realm, and learned so much, and was like, wow, why is this information not out there? I can support other women the way I'm supporting myself right now. And then that became my passion. And when I was sitting at the desk doing, my tier 2 weight management stuff, I was just like, this is not for me.
So you were doing that in parallel. You kept this other day job and still carried on doing the learning.
Yeah. So when I finished the learning, I tried to do both, but managing a small 4-year-old and a household and being a wife and everything else, and that job and trying to start up a business was just far too much for me, and dealing with perimenopause as well. So I just took the driving seat and went, sod it, I'm going to quit. Because for me, if I did that, that would put more pressure on me to make something of my business. So that's what I did. I actually quit my job and started self-employed. And
That's
that's
quite a
where
big
I am
step
now.
to take, isn't it?
It is. And I didn't have any savings. I was just like, I'm just going to go for it and see what happened. It's always worked out in the past. Done it plenty of times. It's just stepping out of that comfort zone into it, and just putting a little bit of fear into your life, and taking it from there. And that's exactly what I did. And it's 6 months now that I left at the end of January. So I've managed, financially we've been okay, and it's allowed me the breathing space to sort of look at my business and say, what is it that I'm actually passionate about? What is it that I want to deliver? What is it that I want to support women with? Whereas when I was within that job, I was really struggling to create a vision of what it is that I wanted to do. So I'm so glad that I did take that leap in the end. And that's where I'm at today.
So how would you say your life compares to now? from going the corporate and then going to Morocco and coming back to a desk job and now setting up your own business? What would you say the pros and cons?
Um, I think the cons are just that unstable feeling. It can be really scary. And just feeling a bit in a conundrum or feeling a bit insecure. It does impact you, but the pros far outweigh the cons, I'd say, because you're working towards something for you. I've always had this saying, it's actually on my board in front of me. If you don't have big dreams and goals, you'll end up working really hard for someone who does. And
That's lovely. I love that, actually.
yeah, and I found that about 10 years ago, and I cut it out, and I took it to Morocco. It was on the wall in Morocco for me. I've always looked at it and thought, it's just true. It's so true. And I don't want that for myself. I want my big dreams and goals to be achieved. So yeah, I think the pros of just taking that leap and going for it is massive. And even though I've dipped in and out of work since then, I'm still wiser and I've still learned a lot that I can apply today within my business. So nothing was ever a regret.
And so, as I always say, hindsight is a wonderful thing. So if you look back now, is there anything specific that you think you might have done differently or wish you'd done differently? Or
I don't think so, to be honest. It would have been nice to complete my master's in my occupational therapy. But I also believe that, your life's mapped out for you. What comes for you is meant to be. So I believe that happened for a reason, even though it was highly stressful. So yeah, I do wish that I'd completed it, whether I went into occupational therapy or not, but I still use a lot of what I've learned within the occupational therapy realm within my business today. So that would be the only thing, really. No, because like I say, I believe that what comes to you is meant for you. So
that's great. No regrets.
yeah, no,
that's really, really lovely. So for those people out there who are thinking, oh God, I'd love to run away from my job and my career, any words of wisdom or advice for people who might be feeling a bit stuck or stressed with their jobs and considering a change?
I guess the only thing I would say really is what my little note says. If you don't have big dreams and goals, you'll end up working really hard for someone else who does. And life is incredibly short. So take the leap. And, even if things don't work out the way that you want it to go, like, it's not a failure. You'll just learn from it and you'll grow stronger. Just take the leap. That's all I say. Definitely. I've always used that motto within my life, even at 22 when I wanted to go off to Australia traveling as a single female. It was bloody scary, but I was like, come on, take the leap, just go for it. And I did, and it was the best thing I ever did. So I've always just said, go for it, just go for it. And, things will work out.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Exactly.
That's great. Now, if any of our listeners would like to get hold of you, talk to you about what you're doing or your experience, whatever, what's the best way for them to contact you?
So my business name is Wellbeing of Women. I'm currently just building my website, so I won't direct them there. But you can catch me on social media at wellbeingofwomen.wow, WOW. And then hopefully my website will be up soon, so you'll be able to catch me at wellbeingofwomen.co.uk.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much. It's been a really interesting chat. I've loved hearing about your escape to Morocco. It makes me feel like I'm not the only one that ran off on on an adventure somewhere else.
No, thank you for having me. I love stuff like this. I love hearing other women's narratives. I find it so fascinating. So it's nice to be able to come in and share mine today.
Well, hopefully it's inspiring, isn't it? Because I remember when I was going through my career change journey, I just didn't know what else was out there. And it wasn't until I started talking to other women, I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. I didn't know that existed, or that's really cool. And I think it's that inspiration to kind of get your thoughts going and think, wow, what else could I do?
Definitely. And I think one of the things that I did, and I remember my own mum used to say to me, like, what are you doing? And I just go and try different things. I'd book myself on an introduction to play therapy course or an introduction to this, just to test the waters and see what the different things were. And if it was something that I enjoyed, I'd be on all sorts of like free courses or, intro courses just to go and see what is out there, not your usual typical job roles. I went to the Coaching Academy's free weekend in London just to see what that's all about. So I definitely recommend just putting yourself out there and getting a feel for things.
You also meet new people, don't you?
Yeah,
and you get slightly out your comfort zone. You meet new people, talk to new people, and from that sometimes often snowballs to other things. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you get chatting, and they inspire you, and there's a whole like snowball of inspiration going on, and it keeps you in that rhythm of, right, I'm going to keep going with this. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming to talk to us, and I hope people get in contact with you and find out more about what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Lara. Take care.
Right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.